Hello friends, welcome to Awdhesh Academy. Friends, we are going to learn today about Chanakya. Chanakya is also known as Vishnugupta or Kautilya. He was the Prime Minister of Chandragupta Maurya and he is actually considered to be the kingmaker. Because of his wisdom, because of his knowledge and strategies, Chandragupta Maurya became the king. He was a very intelligent person, he was a very shrewd person, and he has given us the wisdom which are relevant even today, and almost all the rulers follow what he has taught as the game of politics. He is known for diplomacy and also the statesmanship. He is also called India's Machiavelli because Machiavelli told us that "and" is most important. Means are secondary. We should try to adopt all sort of means to get the right "and." And almost similar teachings were given by Chanakya several thousands years ago. His book Arthashastra is considered to be the oldest text of public administration. So let us first know about Arthashastra. Arthashastra can be divided into three parts. The first is called Arth Niti. Arth Niti basically means Arth means economics, Niti means policies. That means it basically talks about the economic policies which the kingdom should have, which the king should follow. The second is called Dand Niti. Dand means punishment and Niti means policy. That basically means the administration of justice. How the justice should be done. How the people who commit the wrong things should be punished and how the people who do the right thing should be avoided. So that is basically what is Dand Niti. The third is Videsh Niti. Videsh Niti means Videsh is foreign and Niti means against policy. That means here we learn about how to maintain the foreign affairs. Because maintenance of a good foreign affair is very important. First, to have a cordial relationship with our neighbors, and also in the interest of business, it is important to have good foreign relationship with our neighbors and the other countries of the world. So let us now first learn about the political government's idea of Chanakya. Chanakya has introduced for the first time the concept of hierarchy and departments, which we see are still followed in the modern times. He has divided the whole state into different provinces, districts, villages, and made every organization head by a particular rank of officer. He wanted everybody to obey the rule of law. In those times, the king was all powerful. Many people consider kings as even the incarnation of God. But Chanakya was a very practical person and he was also a very modern thinker. So what he suggested that everybody, including the king, should follow the rule of law. Nobody is above the law. He prescribed duties and functions to the king's ministers and officials so that everybody knows what is the job and everybody does the job properly. He provided very strict code of conduct for all the government functionaries, which can be compared with the modern code of conduct which are given to our government officials in the modern time. He has given a very beautiful concept of Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. The meaning is, as the king, so is the people. That means, if we want that our people are law-abiding, our people are moral and ethical, then the king must lead them through his own conduct. Because if the king is bad, the people cannot be good. And therefore, the responsibility is greatest on the shoulders of king. He said that a king must be intelligent and possess the highest quality of leadership. Because a king inspires people, and unless he is of the best quality, the people cannot have an ideal and people will not be able to follow the right path. He classified the offenses into civil and criminal. So the civil offenses are those offenses where a penalty can be imposed but need not to go to jail. But the criminal offenses are more serious in nature, and if somebody commits criminal offense like murder, rape and all that, then necessarily he has to undergo punishment or physical punishment of jail. He suggested fair penalty and proportionate punishment. You remember in earlier times, there has been several cases where for even a small theft, the person can be jailed for several years. So he has given the law, he has made the law, he prescribed such rules that the proportion of the punishment is according to the offenses that has been committed. He recognized the importance of cooperation of citizens, and he has shown that unless the people cooperate with the king, by force king cannot get the administration done. And therefore we must try to win the approval of the people, and only when they cooperate with us, then only we can make our country great. One of the greatest contribution of Chanakya was that he has given us the 4 types of policies for good administration, which we all are familiar: Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. Now the meaning of Sam is to use the instrument of persuasion. The first and foremost, we should try to persuade the people, logic with them, and try to convince them that this is the right thing and you should do the right thing. But there are many people who will not follow your voice, who will not follow your advice. They will do the wrong things. And for such people, punishment is must. And therefore it comes Dand. So Dand is very much necessary, because some people need punishment, and without punishment they will not do the right thing. Then Dam. Dam basically means that you must award the people. Punishment is not enough. You must award the people for doing good things. You will find that many times in the government service of modern times, there is a punishment for doing wrong things, but there are no corresponding reward for doing the right things. Everybody gets promotion at the same time, same increment, same salary, and therefore people are not motivated to do the right thing. And therefore Dam basically means a reward system. A reward is also necessary to motivate the people to do the right thing. And finally the Bhed. Bhed basically means divide. You see, Bhed can be interpreted in 2 ways. Number 1, that you should divide the enemies into 2 parts. So suppose you are an administrator. Some people are honest, some people are dishonest. Now suppose you take everybody in the same way, treat everybody in the same way, then what will happen? That the goodness will not be promoted. And therefore, as a good administrator, you must divide your opponents even for good cause. So support the honest people to the hilt and take action against the negative people or the corrupt people. And that will divide the opponents, and you will be able to have support of a section of people, and you should be able to achieve the goals of your organization. Chanakya was very particular about corruption. He knew that corruption is unavoidable in the government setup. Whenever there is a power, there is corruption. As it is wisely said in the modern times, power corrupt and absolute power corrupt absolutely. What it means is the moment you give power, there is going to be a misuse of power. So instead of thinking about, that you can eliminate the corruption, we must always think about how to minimize the corruption. He has in fact given 40 methods by which a government officer can swindle funds. And he suggested that there should be a regular transfer of officers so that they are not able to develop a vested interest in a particular place. He has said once, just as a fish moving under water cannot possibly be found out whether it is drinking or not drinking water, so government servants employed in the government work cannot be found out while taking money for themselves. What it means is that if you are like a fish whether it drinks water or not, it's very difficult to find out. In the same way, the government officers also, it's very difficult to find out whether they are getting a personal benefit or not. So you have to control them, you have to monitor their performance through all possible means and try to see that they are not posted in the same place for a long time. And in India, we are still following the policies which are given by Chanakya, because we transfer the officers on a regular interval. Let us now understand the principles of state administration which Chanakya has given to us. First of all, he told us that the political governance is a means to achieve economic governance. That means the politics is not about gaining power. The politics is about developing the state. That is why he called Arthashastra, which basically means economy. While actually the entire philosophy is about the politics, what the politician or the ruler should do, but actually this entire thing is for the purpose of economic development. So the goal of all the leaders, goal of the king, goal of the politician should be the economic development. That is the first and the foremost thing in the mind of the king. The salaries of the kings and the officials should not exceed more than a quarter of the revenue. Just because you are in power, you should not enjoy undue luxuries. This is also one of the important principles which Chanakya told us. He has also said that stability shall prevail if rulers are responsive, accountable, removable and recallable. That means nobody should have a permanency in the government. So if the people know that they cannot be removed, they cannot be sacked, then they will become dictator, and that will not be good for the country. He also advised that the state should be well-structured administrative machinery which is divided on the basis of territorial and geographical jurisdiction. There were different departments in his time, and every department has well-defined roles, and there used to be departmental heads who will be running the administration by the help of councillors and ministers and the high officials. And he used to select all these top officials by looking to the background and character. Only after getting all the feedback about the officials, they will be selected by the king. Let us now understand the economic ideas of Chanakya. Number one, that he believed that we should create a great economic infrastructure in the country. Like in the modern time, if you can see, you have to build roads, you have to provide electricity, you have to provide all the infrastructure which are necessary for the economic development. That is the primary job of the king. He suggested penalties for officials who are incurring losses and reward to those who are making profit. That means use carrot and stick policy for the government officials. And there should be just and fair wage policy. Nobody should be paid exorbitant high salary. Nobody should be paid very low salary. The interest of the consumer must be taken care of by the state. That means the state is not there to only make profit. Ultimately, the people's interest should also be taken care, and no businessman should be allowed to cheat the customer. Therefore, the quality of the product should be ensured by the producer. If the producer claims certain quality, that must be delivered. If he fails to deliver that quality, then strict action can be taken against them. And he also advised that act of adulteration of the article should be heavily punished. That is actually very harmful for the health, and also it is for unduly creating profit in the illegal manner. He also prescribed that there should be a punishment for selling the inferior goods as a quality product. He decided that there should be a fixed profit margins for goods, and if you are selling at an exorbitant profit, then there should be punishment for that. That means pure market economy should not be followed, and there should be some restriction as far as the profit is concerned. But he accepted the role of demand and supply for normal cases. That means as far as it is fairly decided, you should not intervene on the day-to-day basis for deciding the price. Let it be decided by the market price. But when you find that somebody is exorbitantly making profit, the state should intervene. He also suggested that there should be state intervention when there is a glut in the market. Even though he was broadly in the favor of market economy, but he suggested that if there is a glut, then state should intervene and try to see that the demand of the goods are more. Let us now understand the ideas of Chanakya in respect of trade and agriculture. He believed that agriculture is better than mines, since mines fill only the treasury, but the agriculture fills treasury as well as storehouses. So agriculture is important. Every year we produce, mines will produce once, but agriculture we get crops every year. He believed that taxing of agriculture is an important source of revenue. In those times, the service industry was not that prominent, and manufacturing was also not that prominent, and therefore agriculture was one of the major source of income as far as the government was concerned. Foreign trade was the third pillar of economic activity after agriculture and local trade. So he gave a excessive importance or the due importance to the foreign trade, because that is very important for the prosperity of the state. He emphasized the improvement of infrastructure to facilitate trade. He also advised that the state should ensure that the trade routes are free of courtiers, state officials, thieves, and frontier guards. That means the businessman should be able to easily do the trade without fearing the officers, without fearing the thieves. And he developed a mechanism to resolve the trade disputes. There are many other important ideas given by Chanakya in Arthashastra, which may be discussed as following. For example, he has said that there should be an emphasis on fraud detection and fraud prevention. That means you cannot eliminate frauds. It is impossible to be totally free of frauds, and you must develop a mechanism so that you can detect the fraud timely and you can prevent the frauds timely. He used to appoint spies to keep watch of different departments. These are like the modern intelligence department, which gives the feedback to the government about the different type of frauds committed by the individuals and the officers. He focused on the education and spread the education in all directions. In his time, the universities of Nalanda and Takshashila flourished. And he was a very pragmatic person who focused on the results rather than focusing on the theories. Chanakya was actually a man who was having the practical ideas about how to improve the society, how to develop a nation, and how we can actually deliver the results. So friends, today we learned about Chanakya and his Arthashastra and his different concepts about the running of administration, running of economy, foreign affairs, and all that. So I hope that you have been able to understand this chapter well, and you should be able to solve any questions relating to Chanakya. Thank you very much for watching the video. Friends, today we are going to learn some of the important quotes of Chanakya. As you are aware that in the Civil Services General Studies paper 4, we get many quotes and we are asked to explain the meaning of those quotes in different contexts. So today we'll discuss about some of the important quotes of Chanakya and understand their meaning in the practical circumstances, practical situations. First, we will talk about the quote of education. Chanakya said, "Education is the best friend. An educated person is respected everywhere. Education beats the beauty and the youth." So in this quote, Chanakya tells us about the importance of education. The beauty and the youth is temporary. You get old and then the beauty is lost. But knowledge always grows. Knowledge never gets old. Another beautiful thing about knowledge is that knowledge is universally respected. For example, let's take the example of Albert Einstein. Now, Albert Einstein was a Jew. He was a German. But all over the world, irrespective of the caste, religion, race, everybody respects him. In the same way, every knowledgeable person has respect all over the world. And that is why education is very, very important for all of us. Chanakya was a very practical person. And you will find that many of his quotes may not be very moral. But we all know that those quotes are very, very practical. For example, once he said, "A person should not be too honest. Straight trees are cut first and honest people are screwed first." It means that it is good to be honest, but it should not be too much honesty. What is the meaning of too much honesty? If somebody is dishonest to us, somebody is cheating us, somebody is doing fraud to us, in that situation also, if we are honest, then we will not be able to succeed in this world. We must be honest, but at the same time, we must understand that we must be able to counter the frauds. We must be able to counter the dishonest people. That is also important, because if you remain honest all the time, you may not be able to survive, just like the straight trees are cut first. The second, even if a snake is not poisonous, it should pretend to be venomous. What is the meaning? The meaning is that if you pretend or if you show yourself to be a too good a person, that you don't even resist anything. If somebody does any injustice to you and you still remain very good person, then people will exploit you. So even if your intention is not to harm the person, but at the same time it is foolish to accept all type of humiliation. You must be able to resist and pretend at least that you can harm the person, you can show your anger so that you are not taken for granted. Let's take the third very important quote. He said, the serpent, the king, the tiger, the stinging wasp, a small child, a dog owned by other people, and the fool. These seven ought not to be awakened from sleep. The meaning is that these are the categories of people. There are some categories of people we should allow them to be of their own. We should not try to interfere in their life, because if we awaken them, it will be a problem for us. So let them live their life. We should also live their life. Let us not try to interfere in their life. Now we'll talk about his quotes of fear. He said, as soon as the fear approaches near, attack and destroy it. That means, whenever you are feeling fear, the only way to overcome fear is to fight it out. Look, we all develop fear when we are against a very difficult situation. Fear is very natural instinct, a natural emotional reaction to a situation which we find very difficult. But if we don't fight that, what will happen? That fear will overcome us, and then we will become even more scared, and even scared when we are doing even a smaller things. And the best way to fight fear is to just take that challenge and go ahead. So if you fight the fear right straight way, then you can overcome, because you will destroy the fear. Chanakya has beautiful words to say and a very wise words to say about the friendship. He said, there is some self-interest behind every friendship. There is no friendship without self-interest. This is a bitter truth. That means we must see that whenever we have friends, we must take care of the friends. What happens that we often neglect the friends, request, demands. We take our friends for granted. We take our love for granted. We take often our relatives for granted, and that actually destroy the friendship, that actually destroy the relationship. It is important that even though the friends may not demand anything from us, but at the same time, it is our duty to see that whatever they do, we reciprocate. If they do some help to us, we should also help them whenever they are in need. As it is wisely said, a friend in need is friend indeed. That means we should not wait that somebody asks for help. We must readily help our friends, and that is the best way of maintaining a friendship for a very long time. Another very important quote, he said, never make friends with people who are above or below you in status. Such friendship will never give you any happiness. What he says is again a very practical wisdom, that whenever you make a friend, see that the friend is having almost similar level of status. Because the friend is very rich and you are poor, then what will happen? You will not feel very comfortable with the friend. In the same way, if you are prosperous and the friend is very poor, again he will not feel comfortable and you will also not feel comfortable. So we must see that when we are making friends, there should be an intellectual, economical and all sort of similarities as much as possible, because that is the key of having a long-term relationship and long-term friends. Now let us learn some thoughts about karma. Chanakya was not a very dogmatic person. He did not believe much on the rituals, and he believed that we can change our own destiny by our own karma. So once he said, a man is great by deeds, not by birth. There are many people who take birth in a very good families, in a good caste, but because they don't do anything good, they become bad people. So Chanakya told us that ultimately we should do the good things, and only by good things we can become good, and not because we have taken birth in a good family or in a good religion or caste. Chanakya has also given another quote. He says, a man is born alone and he dies alone, and he experiences the good and bad consequences of his karma alone, and he goes alone to hell or the supreme abode. The meaning is that the most important thing in our life is our karma. If we are doing good karma, then we will reap all the benefits in this world, and also when we will die, we'll go to heaven. But if our karma are bad, then we will suffer all sort of pains in this world, and when we die, we'll go to hell. That is why we should always focus on our karma and see that we always do good things in our life. Let us take another beautiful quote from Chanakya. He once said, the fragrance of flowers is spread only in the direction of the wind, but the goodness of a person spreads in all directions. Friends, this is very important. Because many times, many people ask me, and we often wonder, that goodness is something which is a liability in the today's world. That you will find that many bad people are reaping all sort of benefits and good people are not in demand. But the fact is that a good person is known to everybody. If you are doing anything good, people know. If you are doing anything bad, also people know. And remember that a goodness spreads like, scent of a flower. So if the flower is having a good smell, everybody will know and everybody can enjoy it. In the same way, if you are doing good things, then everybody can be benefited and everybody can love you and everybody can admire you. And that is the reason that we should always try to do good things in our life and don't bother about the negative things and the people who are doing negative things and reaping temporary benefit. Because ultimately it is the goodness which is going to give you the best benefit in your life. One of the most beautiful quote of Chanakya was Ati Sarvatra Bharjate. That means excess of everything is bad. For example, Sita was very beautiful and that is why Sita was abducted by Ravan. Ravan was having a lot of knowledge and a lot of arrogance, and it is because of that he was destroyed. We know the story of Raja Bali or King Bali, who was considered to be very much charitable, and because of his excessive charitism he was actually lost his kingdom. So Chanakya advised that excess of everything is bad. We must not do excess of anything, and this is, I think, some of the very beautiful words which he said, that excess has to be avoided at all cost. Whether it is an excess of goodness or excess of badness, everything which is in excess is bad. So friends, today we have learned about some of the important quotes of Chanakya. I am sure that we can use those quotes in our life and make our life better and achieve great success in our life. Thank you very much for watching the video. Friends, today we are going to know about Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. He was one of the greatest thinkers of his time and universally respected for his thoughts, for his poems, and for his view and practice of education. He was born in 1861 in a wealthy family in Calcutta. But he never liked the conventional method of teaching and learning. He was never a very top level student because he was a creative person from the beginning, and his thoughts were very different from the thoughts which were prevalent during his time. He went to join University College in England for further studies. He was a great poet, writer, and a philosopher. He wrote novels, short stories, drama, and essays. He was also a great painter and a great musician. Ravindra Sangeet is still very much popular all over the country and particularly in West Bengal. His songs are very popular and Ravindra Sangeet is a class in itself. He was the author of our national anthem Jan Gan Man. He was the first Asian to win the Nobel Prize for his book Gitanjali in the year 1913. He also received the knighthood in 1915. He was conferred the title of Gurudev by none other than Mahatma Gandhi, and he has given the title of Mahatma to Mahatma Gandhi or Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. When the Jallianwala Bagh incident took place in our country, he was very much disturbed, and in protest he decided to return his knighthood to the British. He later established Vishwa Bharati University in the year 1921 to impart education according to what he thought should be the right method for teaching. Let us now understand the social reforms which Gurudev has brought to India. He was impressed by the Brahmo Samaj philosophy, which was very modern and rational in his time. He considered the caste and nationality as incompatible to each other. He once said, and I quote, A great national unification implies, therefore, a great revolt against caste Tamils, a strong impulse toward reconciliation of conflicting interests, the mutual composing of differences, rhythmic heartbeats as a result of engaging in common pursuit of brothers as co-equals. In India, caste is the greatest obstruction in the pathway of reform. So in this way, he was totally against the caste system which was prevalent in his time. My friends, he was a very, very modern thinker. And even though he was a good friend and he has a great respect for Mahatma Gandhi, but he did not endorse many of his views. For example, there was an earthquake in Bihar in 1934 and many people were killed. Gandhiji said that this earthquake was a divine chastited means sent by God to our sins. That means because we are committing sins of different types, this earthquake was sent by God. And particularly his reference was the reference of untouchability, the practice of untouchability. Tagore protested publicly. He said, "It is all the more unfortunate because this kind of unscientific view of phenomena is too readily accepted by a large section of our countrymen." So he opposed the view of Gandhiji, and I think he was right. In the modern time, nobody would say that earthquake is sent by God because of our sins. So what he said has withstand the test of time. He was also against the popular things which Gandhi suggested, that is charkha. Gandhi used to spin his own cloths. Tagore was in favor of modern industries, modern technology, because the modern technology increases productivity and also help human to avoid lot of drudgery and poverty. Because these factory produced goods are cheaper and also a lot of people get employment in that, and they can avoid a lot of menial type of work. Gandhi advocated moral abstinence as the right method to reduce the population and follow the birth control. Tagore was not in favor of that. He rather supported the modern practice of preventive methods for family planning. Another great difference with Gandhiji was that Gandhiji was very much distrustful against the modern medicine. He followed the naturopathy and he was not in support of modern allopathic medicine, while Tagore has supported the modern medicine more than anything else. So Tagore was a modern thinker. He was perhaps ahead of his times, because in those days, who had the guts to speak against Gandhi and say these things openly? He emphasized that education is the most important element for the development of a country. If you give education to the children, they will become responsible citizens, they will earn their livelihood, and they will be able to help the country grow and become a developed country. He spent most of his time in Santiniketan, and this was a school which he has established to impart the education in his own way. He believed that we should gather knowledge from everyone, whether it is coming from West or coming from East, coming from our scriptures, coming from anybody's scripture. We should try to get knowledge from all sources. During his time, the freedom fighters mixed religion with politics, and lot of practices were prevalent in that time. When Hindu religion, for example, was used to invoke the nationalism in the people. So he was against that. He was not in favor of using religion by the freedom fighters. He was also opposed to the extremism or the extreme methods of violence which were also very popular for the fighting against British. He believed that Indians have actually gained from British Raj. That was a very, very revolutionary thought. When all the political leaders were cursing British, he was perhaps the only leader or one of the few prominent persons who said that we have actually gained from British Raj, because British has brought a system and they have improved our governance, economy, technology, and so many other things. He believed that the root cause of India's problem is social rather than political. When the society is divided into so many castes and creed and religions, then people don't have trust toward each other. So he wanted to remove the social evils more than trying to create a political alternative to the British. Let me give you some quote of Gurudev. He once said, You can't cross the sea merely by standing and staring at the water. That means if you want to achieve something in your life, thoughts are not enough. You have to work very, very hard, take risk, and only by that you can accomplish your goals. He also once said, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. The meaning is that many of us try to get joy by pleasure, by doing selfish act. But the greatest joy comes to us when we are serving the poor and needy. And so, if you really want to be happy in your life and you really want to discover the greatest joy, you must develop the habit of serving other people. His song Ekla Chalo Re, that is very, very popular. This song inspires us to take a moral stand irrespective of whether other people are supporting us or not. Just a few words from the poem. If they answer not to thy call, walk alone. If they are afraid and cower, mutely facing the wall, you thou unlucky one, open thy mind and speak out alone. That means sometime in our life, we have to take a stand based on our own conviction, even though the whole world may be against you. And as we have discussed that, he was so much particular about that purity of thought, courage of conviction, that he opposed even Gandhiji, a close friend, a greatest religious leader and the political leader of his time. Let me again tell you a small poem of Gurudev which is so heart-touching. He says, leave this chanting and singing and telling of beats. Whom do you worship in this lonely, dark corner of a temple with doors all shut? Open your eyes and see your God is not before you. He is there where the tiller is tilling the hard ground and where the path maker is breaking stones. He is with them in sun and in shower, and his garment is covered with dust. This is what he has written in Gitanjali. So he has told us, preached us, and inspired us that if you want to know God, go to the people who are actually working. So the work is the greatest form of worship, and we must try to do good things rather than merely praying or thinking great things. So I hope that today you have understood the concept or the thoughts or the ethical ideas of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. He was truly a great thinker, a modern thinker, somebody who was ahead of his time, and somebody who has taught something which continue to be as relevant today as it was 100 years ago. Thank you very much for watching the video. Friends, today we are going to learn about the ideas of Dr. BR Ambedkar, one of the very prominent scholar, thinker, social reformer of India. I think we all know about Dr. BR Ambedkar. Let's understand some of his ideas. But before that, let us understand about Dr. Ambedkar. Baba Sahab Dr. Bhim Rao Ramji Ambedkar, he was a great scholar, social reformer and a great leader. He dedicated his life to eradicating the social inequality in India. We know that Dr. Ambedkar came from the lower caste in India, and that is why he was aware of the discrimination and the problem which are faced by the lower classes in India. After India got independence, he was appointed as the Union Law Minister and the chairman of the Constitution Drafting Committee. And so, as we all know, that he played a very important role in drafting the India's constitution. He later converted into Buddhism as he considered Buddhism to be the humanitarian religion that provided its followers liberty, equality and fraternity. So friends, this is about Dr. Ambedkar. Let's now understand about his ideas. He believed that political democracy is not possible unless there is a social and economic democracy in India. Just because you give political rights of voting to the people, that's not going to give democracy to all the sections of the society. We also need social and economic democracy because people should get social respect in the society. People should have the same social status in the society. They should also have economic status, economic well-being to actually become a true participant of India's democracy. He basically argued for equality, and he also won wide support for introducing the system of reservation of jobs for members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe in the civil services, schools and colleges. So the reservation which is introduced in the constitution is largely thanks to his effort. Reservation was basically aimed at providing a voice to people who had suffered grave injustices throughout the centuries. And so this has really played a very important role in creating an inclusive society in India. Dr. Ambedkar was very much in support of freedom. He believed in freedom of thought and expression, and he said, freedom of mind is the real freedom. A person whose mind is not free, though he may not be in chains, is a slave, not a free man. One whose mind is not free, though he may not be in prison, is a prisoner and not a free man. One whose mind is not free, though alive, is no better than dead. Freedom of mind is the proof of one's existence. So this particular quotation tells us that the most important thing in our life is to think freely, not be captivated by the numerous thoughts and beliefs which are wrongly adopted by most of the people. We should be able to reason, we should be able to think, and we should be able to be free as far as our minds are concerned. Let us now learn some of his quotes which are very famous and popular. The first is, I like the religion that teaches liberty, equality and fraternity. So every religion should provide liberty, equality and fraternity to all its followers. Life should be great rather than long. Cultivation of mind should be the ultimate aim of human existence. That means if you want to be a good human being, we have to cultivate mind. If you believe in living a respectable life, you believe in self-help, which is the best help. So instead of relying upon other people for help, we should learn to help ourselves. I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress which women have achieved. This particular quotation teaches us that the progress of women is extremely important for the progress of a society. Unless the women are progressive, they stand on their own feet, they are strong, society cannot prosper. Men are mortal, so are ideas. An idea needs propagation as much as a plant needs watering. Otherwise, both will wither and die. That means if you have great ideas, just because you have the great idea, it's not going to success. What we have to do is that we have to constantly nurture great ideas, work hard on those great ideas, and then only those ideas will be converted into reality. Political tyranny is nothing compared to social tyranny, and a reformer who defies society is a more courageous man than a politician who defies government. So here Dr. Ambedkar emphasizes the importance of social reform. That means giving equality to all sections of the society. Unless that is done, there is no point in having only a political reform and only giving the voting right to the people. So friends, we have learned about the thoughts of Dr. Ambedkar, one of the greatest thinkers of our time. Please attempt some questions on the basis of the quotations which has been given here of Dr. Ambedkar. Thank you very much.